This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Things sure are looking tough for the auto industry right now. AlixPartners published a survey that shows the auto industry is the most disrupted industry in the world right now, more than the media, more than telecommunications, and more than consumer goods. And here's why. Car sales have stalled out in every major market in the world. Interest rates are annoyingly high. Consumers are reeling from high car prices. Automakers are struggling to develop software-defined vehicles and centralized compute platforms. Their big investments in EVs haven't paid off, and Chinese automakers are gobbling up global market share. But those problems could be a walk in the park compared to what could happen tomorrow. President Trump is promising to slap 25% tariffs on imported cars and components, and the industry is in a full-blown panic. One supplier CEO predicts that car production in North America could grind to a halt within a week. Could that really happen? Who knows? But if you want to get more details and insights, check out the latest Autoline After Hours. We're calling it Countdown to the Tariff Disaster, and it could be a real eye-opener for you. And like I said, this is a global problem. Bosch announced that its operating profit fell 33% last year. Its EBIT margin is now down to only 3.5%, half of what it was the year before. Bosch's problems were largely in Europe, where car sales are millions of units lower than they were before COVID. In North America, Bosch's automotive component sales actually grew by 5% to $10.7 billion. However, it has multiple plants in Mexico and Canada, and they could be severely disrupted by the tariffs. With a profit margin in the low single digits, it would probably be next to impossible for Bosch to absorb the cost of those tariffs and not go into the red. Meanwhile, Continental, one of Bosch's biggest competitors, announced it will close 4 component plants in Germany and downsize 2 others. That will eliminate 580 jobs, which is part of the company's overall restructuring efforts to get rid of 7,000 employees. Yesterday, the ACEA, the lobbying group that represents the auto industry in the European Union, put out a press release practically begging the EU to take, and I quote, urgent action to prevent irreparable damage to the European auto industry. The ACEA is heavily worried about CO2 emission fines, sluggish EV sales, and Chinese automakers who are growing their market share in the European market. And over in Japan, it seems like Honda doesn't exactly like what it's seeing going on, and it's shaking up the way it does things. Starting on April 1st, it's bringing its EV development operations back into its general business ops. For example, EV and ICE development will be integrated together and controlled by a newly created unit called Automobile Development Operations. Honda expects it to generate new value, technology, and products for the company. Honda's automotive strategy and software-defined vehicle development units, which are currently part of its EV business, will also be integrated into its greater automobile operations. And it's doing the same with motorcycles as well. The unit in charge of electrifying its motorcycle fleet will be integrated into its overall motorcycle and power products operations. Honda believes these moves will allow it to more sustainably offer the products it sells around the world.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
Flexus, a commercial vehicle joint venture between Renault, Volvo, and logistics company CMA-CGM, revealed 3 vans it plans to start delivering to customers next year. The panel, cargo, and step-in vans are all derived from the same EV skateboard platform and will enter into production at a Renault factory in France in the middle of 2026. While it didn't share battery pack or motor details, Flexus says the vans will be able to charge to 80% in less than 20 minutes and offer up to 450 kilometers or about 280 miles of range on the WLTP test cycle. The skateboard platform is equipped with a software-defined vehicle electronic architecture and will also offer embedded software and services that are tailored to commercial vehicle buyers. Flexus says it already has 10 potential partners signed up in France, the UK, and Germany, which could represent demand of up to 15,000 vehicles over 3 years. Despite a drop in global sales, Jaguar Land Rover posted a 9% operating margin in the fourth quarter, its highest in a decade. Those sales dipped 2.6% to just over 106,000 vehicles in Q4, and the U.S. actually overtook China as the automaker's #1 market. U.S. sales were up 43% to 35,750 vehicles, while China's sales slumped 20% to just under 21,000 units. Even so, unlike its German luxury rivals, whose profits has slumped due to falling sales in China, JLR was able to increase its margins thanks to models like the Range Rover Sport, and Defender. But Land Rover's customers aren't just interested in its gas-powered SUVs. The upcoming electric Range Rover, which goes on sale later this year, now has 57,000 buyers on a waiting list, and that's up from 48,000 in November. After this first EV, a smaller Range Rover Electric will launch in the middle of next year as well. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, or IIHS, is integrating a new metric into its crash test that could help reduce concussions and other brain injuries. It says modern cars do a good job of protecting occupants' heads, but there's times when the head can whip after striking the airbag hard. Its current metric to evaluate head injuries measures linear impacts, but the test doesn't capture high-speed rotations that the head and neck can experience in an accident. So the IIHS is adopting a new evaluation that was developed by the University of Virginia, which is also used by the National Football League to evaluate helmets, and the Euro NCAP, which crash tests cars in Europe, adopted it for its ratings in 2022. The IIHS says it's not ready to add the new test to its scores yet, but it will start using it in all crash tests going forward and record the results for its own technical reports. That could lead to automakers making improvements to their airbags. Ford is going back to Le Mans. It announced that Ford Performance will have a full factory team in the WEC Racing Series in 2027, including a new LMDh race car. As you probably know, Ford has a long history with Le Mans. It famously tried to dethrone Ferrari in the 1960s, eventually winning 4 straight overall victories towards the end of that decade. And more recently, it had class victories with the Ford GT and Mustang GT3. No doubt you've heard the term new energy vehicle, or NEV, that's used in China for all types of electrified vehicles. But battery maker CATL has a new term to describe electric vehicles: electric intelligent vehicles, or EIVs. While it's not widely used yet, it's gaining popularity in China, and CATL says that's because electric vehicles can offer features that aren't possible in traditional gas-powered cars. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Intrepid Control Systems. Over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
Developing today's vehicles, issues can happen in an instant. What good is knowing your problems without the data to solve them? Meet Wireless Neovi Cloud, your secure off-the-shelf solution, empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Nearby Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.